Okay, let's start. Uh, so let me just give you some background of this topic, actually why you are studying this topic. So actually you are going to you have enrolled yourself in research, and you will do your research work, and then once you finish your research work, you will also publish whatever you have identified or find during your research, okay, in form of a research paper, or and you also present that work in maybe in conferences and workshops, seminars, etc. And finally in the end you will put all of your research work in form of a thesis, and whatever content you have referred, you will provide references to those contents. Okay, so now the point here is that very important is that you will in order to generate your research, you will also refer or require to study, quote, cite some other work, some other people also works also. Okay, only basis of that work you will actually present your work. Or you will develop your work, or you will give your work on the top of some other work. It's somebody have done something and left some gap there, or the some set of studies that have already been done on a particular topic have some gaps. You identify those gaps, then formulate your problem, and then using certain methodologies you just did your research work, identified something, and then publish that in form of a paper. Okay. So during the research, since you will be exposed with other works also, and obviously you will study those works, will maybe required to use those the works that have already done by some other people. So that's why it is very important that you should also understand the law related to properties or intellectual properties, actually. So during this lecture we will try to understand what are the intellectual properties, and how they are different from the properties that generally people possess. uh, uh, okay, so let's come to the outlines of this set of lectures that we will follow. So first we will try to understand what is property and what is the legal framework to assign rights on the property and protect the misuse and malicious use of the property. Then we will discuss what are intellectual property and its rights. Then type of properties, that means a type of intellectual properties, actually. And we will also have some understanding of the kind of rights that are being given on the intellectual properties, and what type of IPR is there. So these are the some set of topics that we are going to discuss. Now let's start with the definition of the property first. In order to understand the intellectual property, you first need to understand what is property and what are the associated rights, and what is the corresponding legal framework. Okay, so property is actually, if you want to define a property, property is actually any kind of material object that is belonging to a particular person, like the land, farmland that anybody possesses, that is considered as property. Then if you suppose you own a vehicle can be considered as a property. Flat, house, maybe some machine, maybe some animal, all these will be considered as property. Okay, these are the some of the examples, not the complete list of things or objects that are considered as property. Okay, now whenever we talk about property, then always there is associated thing with that property is called ownership. Okay, and so what does it mean? Ownership means right to possess, use and dispose of. So right to possess means you can own the property, you have complete right to own a property. Okay, any country which have a set of laws gives the right to possess a property. That means countries give right to their people to possess land, house, flats, maybe some animals, not all animals, but some animals you can use or possess as property, uh, machines, vehicles, and so on. So the people are given rights to possess those properties, but the people are not only given to rise the only the right to possess the property, they are also given rights to use those properties and dispose of the property. So dispose of means you can sell the property to others. You can also destroy the property if that can be destroyed also. So you have certain rights in certain conditions. And you can also if you want, you can also exclude others to use your property, and you can also permit, if you want, to use your property to some other people also. So that means you have under the term ownership, you are given the right to possess the property. You can use the property in whatever way you like. You can transfer the property to others. You can exclude some other people to use your property. You can include the persons or allow the set of persons to use your property. So it's up to you. All these rights are given by the law of the land to you. Okay, so in legal sense, if you say the property refers to a bundle of rights, so in legal sense property have a bundle of rights. uh, uh, that means a set of rights that you are given by the law of land, and these law uh, confers on a person by virtue of the ownership. So this law actually gives ownership to the people, and they also give the person the freedom to use those properties as per their discretion, okay, under certain legal framework. Uh, Now let's talk about some other aspects of properties. An item or material may not amount as property if it does not become a resource that satisfy the human needs. The meaning is that not everything is assumed as a property. Okay, only those things or objects are assumed as property that are having capability or power to satisfy certain human needs. Okay, if there is a thing that cannot satisfy a human need, it cannot be regarded as a property. Okay. uh, so you might observe that the land is generally used as a property. Why? It can satisfy a set of needs of you. You can use that land to build a house. आप उसके ऊपर घर बना सकते हैं. That will satisfy the need of your house, and you will be able to protect yourself from the different weather conditions, and also it will give you a kind of security. It will give you a kind of pride in your society, and so on. Okay, similarly vehicle, it also satisfies your needs, so that's why it is important. Okay, but there may be some things that may not be regarded as property, but nowadays you can see that there are a lot of things that whatever available in nature can be useful. So most of the things are can be think of as a property. Okay. However, there may be the case that there are certain resources are there that they can be owned, but there are certain resources that cannot be owned by normal people. For example, you cannot own an air in the environment. You cannot own the spectrum. You know that you cannot own a mine, and so everything actually belongs to the public actually, until you are given a license or kind of thing. Okay, so there are things that are of national importance or that are very important. Generally they are owned by the government. Okay, that you can say that it is a public property. So you can think of there are two kind of property: public property and private property. So we are here actually talking about private properties. Okay, but there may be certain things that may not be useful. For example, I believe a mouse cannot, in Indian scenario, a mouse is not regarded as a property. Yes or no? For some people it may be regarded as property, but I believe mouse, for me or for you, mouse is not useful, so we cannot regard it as a property. Or if some insect is there, or that cannot be regarded as a property, you, that is of no use for you, है ना?
यस सर, अभी शायद बैन भी हो गया इस पे। आप
किस पे?
लिबर्टी में माउस पे करते थे ना, शायद बैन कर दिया है।
हाँ, नहीं वो अलग चीज़ है, बट आई एम जस्ट सेइंग फॉर द सेक ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी। वो तो माउस माउस वो एक एनिमल बिहेवियर से रिलेटेड, देयर आर लॉज एनिमल प्रोटेक्शन से रिलेटेड, दैट्स वाई यू कैन नॉट पजेस माउस और यू कैन नॉट वर्क ऑन माउस, वो अलग चीज़ है। बट आई वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट विद रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी। प्रॉपर्टी वही चीज़ है जिसका यूज है। सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सपोज देयर इज ए इंसेक्ट दैट मे नॉट बी ऑफ यूजफुल फॉर यू, कोई, or sometimes it happens that it there may be some object or thing that is available around you, but you do not know the use of that, so nobody will possess that as a property। कोई भी उसे प्रॉपर्टी के तौर पर रखना नहीं चाहेगा। आप यू माइट हैव हर्ड दैट जो सन्यासी लोगों के लिए हीरा जवाहरात उनके लिए कुछ नहीं होता है, दे डू नॉट हैव एनी काइंड ऑफ मीनिंग फॉर देम, so because they do not need it। So anything that is having that can fulfill the need of a human, it can be regarded as a property, but a object or set of objects that does not have that do not have any kind of applications or use, or that can satisfy, or that the objects that do not satisfy any human need cannot be regarded as property। Okay, so properties are only those objects that can satisfy human needs in some way। Okay, now there are factors that we as I told you, that property is any object that have that can fulfill certain human needs। Okay, okay, so now it is also the case that some properties are given more importance on other properties। Okay, you can say that this one property may have lower value, another property might have higher value। You might have, for example, in case of land, you can say this land is more of higher value, this land is of lower value। So because that land is not that land is not you can say that सिंचाई वाली ज़मीन नहीं है, सिंचित ज़मीन नहीं है, what we will call it, सिंचित ज़मीन को क्या बोलेंगे?
irrigated land।
हाँ, irrigated land। Okay, so the land that doesn't have any kind of irrigating facility, or it is not a irrigating land, then that will have lower value, but if a land is having irrigating facility, that will be a higher value। Okay, so it depends on the value। So property have value, and its value depends on kind of needs or applications it can fulfill, or the kind of applications that it have। Okay, so now question arise hota hai ki what are the factors that influence the availability of an object or influence the value of an object actually। So there are different parameters, you might have heard of them, heard some of them। One is the scarcity। So suppose there is a property that is but its availability is very low as per in comparison to the need, obviously it will become of higher value। For example, sometimes you see that onion prices rises, why? Its availability become low and its needs remain higher, so its scarcity is created, or scarcity sometimes it is created it is created artificially, and sometimes it happens naturally। Okay, so whenever there is a scarcity for a property, then obviously its prices or its value goes high। So the value of the property depends on its scarcity, first thing, है ना? You might have heard about demand and supply rule। So whenever supply of a property goes down, demand goes up and supply goes down, then prices becomes high। So it is actually called principle of scarcity, you can say. Then there is second point, that is the knowledge of use. So the property's value also depends on the knowledge of use. Okay, suppose that there is some object that usually you finds around you, or that's suppose that there is a kind of metal that is found around you, but you do not know, or a community is there, and a set of a specific kind of metal is available in their surrounding areas, but the community or the people that are living there, they do not know what is the use of that metal. Then that metal will not be having any value for those people or community. Okay, so the value of the property actually depends on the knowledge of use of that property. If you do not know, or if a community community doesn't know how to what is the use of that particular property, then its value will be zero or very low. Okay, so the value of property depends on its knowledge. So you might have seen that if a machine is having very high usage, or it is very useful, then its value obviously will be very high. So the value specifies the actually the use of or application, you can say the application. If a property is having certain application, then it will be regarded as a property, and its value will be high. Okay, sometimes there are other factors also. Quality of the property. So quality is a again broad term है. Different case में different properties के case में quality का meaning different होगा. So quality also plays a role in this matter. If a property have good quality, then it will be of higher value. Okay, now it is also important to remember that higher the value of an object, that means if the cost of the property is high, then people will more zealously will try to possess it. Again, you can say that in other words, that if property is having very much importance in the life of the people, then the people will try to possess it more zealously, or there will be a more competition to possess that property, है ना. तो जितनी जो प्रॉपर्टी जो चीज़ों की यूज ज़्यादा है, पीपल उनको पजेस करने की कोशिश करते हैं, एंड देयर विल बी कंपटीशन अमॉन्ग द पीपल टू पजेस दिस प्रॉपर्टी. जितनी ज़्यादा वैल्यू होगी, लोग उसे उतना ज़्यादा पजेस करना चाहेंगे. जैसे लैंड, एवरीबडी वांट टू पजेस लैंड, एवरीबडी वांट टू हैव ए हाउस, क्योंकि उनके एप्लीकेशंस हैं, उनकी वैल्यू है. एवरीबडी वांट टू हैव ए कार, एवरीबडी वांट टू हैव ए व्हीकल, बिकॉज देयर नीड इज़ हायर. हाँ, साइकिल की नीड उतनी नहीं होती है, तो हर कोई साइकिल नहीं रखना चाहता है, बट समटाइम्स इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट यू कैन पजेस एंड व्हाट यू कैन नॉट पजेस. उस पर भी डिपेंड करता है कि व्हाट यू विल बी एबल टू पजेस. सो अगर आप कार खरीद सकते हैं, यू विल बाय कार. इफ़ यू आर नॉट एबल टू बाय कार, यू विल बाय बाइसिकल, और you may buy a bike. So it depends on also as actually on your budget, what kind of property you will be possessing. But it is always the case that if property have a high value, everybody would like to possess it, and there will be a competition for that. And then once demand is created, then the value will go up as per its availability. Okay, now we can classify the property into two categories. First is called corporeal property. So corporeal properties are the properties that are intangible things actually. So intangible things, that means the things that you can touch, you can see, like like land, building, vehicle, etc. All these are called intangible properties. Okay, so most of the time, generally before the IPR laws came into force, most of the countries just used to frame the law for possessing the corporeal properties. बाद में later society realizes that incorporeal properties also have some role and also have some importance, and their possession also need to be provided certain background laws. to regulate their possession and their use and applications. Okay, so corporeal properties are called tangible things. Tangible things का मतलब होता है जिन्हें आप छू सकते हैं, देख सकते हैं. So like land, building, vehicle, and so on. Then there are another class of property. We call them intangible things. So intangible things are things that we cannot see and uh, cannot touch them. Like copyright. आपने इन सब के नाम सुनेंगे, but we will talk about them. Copyright, you might have heard. Trademark, सुना होगा आपने नाम. Then patent, okay, and so on. So what is the important here is to understand is that incorporeal properties are actually the creation of human minds. Okay, so these are the properties that are created by humans applying their creativity, innovativeness, and critical thinking. Okay, so these are the properties that are completely creation of your mind, creation of human mind. Initially these were not regarded as property, but बाद में इनका बाद में जैसे जैसे डेवलपमेंट होता गया, एंड नाउ डेज जो इकोनॉमी है वो नॉलेज बेस्ड इकोनॉमी the economies are moving towards knowledge based economy. So these properties role is also becoming very important, and their importance also have been increased. Okay, so in recent 50 to 60 years के around इनका application, इनका importance बहुत बड़ा है, and many countries have framed the law to protect these properties, okay, or regulate the use and possession of these properties. Okay, now there is one more important point that you should remember regarding these properties, that the corporeal properties can be protected in a more better way in comparison to incorporeal property, because in case of corporeal property like land, building, etc., these actually properties exist physically, and you can possess them physically and protect them. Okay, so that means since you have the physical possession of these properties, so you can easily exclude others from using it, and you can easily protect these properties. But that is not so for the intangible properties like copyright, because these properties do not have physical existence, and so you cannot easily stop others to use or misuse those properties, है ना. आप किसी दूसरे को आसानी से नहीं रोक सकते. इफ़ यू हैव ए लैंड, देन यू कैन क्रिएट, आप एक बाड़ उसके चारों तरफ लगा सकते हैं. इफ़ यू आर हैविंग हाउस, आपने उसमें ताला लगा रखा है, एंड यू कैन ऑल इजीली प्रोटेक्ट इट्स पोजेशन. आप उसे आसानी से किसी दूसरे व्यक्ति को उसे यूज करने से रोक सकते हैं. आप अपने व्हीकल को यूज करने से किसी को भी आसानी से रोक सकते हैं. बट सपोज इफ़ यू हैव ए बुक दैट यू हैव रिटन, you cannot easily stop others to use your book. Or if you create a painting, drawing, something, it will be very much difficult to protect that property, to disallow other people to use that property. So that's why it was a requirement that there must be also some set of rules or some set of laws should be enforced to regulate use and possession of these properties as in the interest of the creator of those properties. Okay, so you might have seen that, आपने ऑब्जर्व भी किया होगा कि कई सारी जो प्रॉपर्टीज़ हैं उसके केस में खास करके लॉ वायलेशन ज़्यादा होता है, लाइक पायरेसी. सो दीज काइंड ऑफ प्रॉपर्टीज़ के केस में पायरेसी एक बड़ा थ्रेट है. यू माइट हैव सीन दैट म्यूजिक है या बुक्स हैं, उनकी पायरेटेड कॉपी इजीली आपको अवेलेबल हो जाती है, एंड पायरेटेड कॉपीज आर देयर. इन केस ऑफ म्यूजिक है, इन केस ऑफ बुक्स, यू कैन, इन केस ऑफ मूवीज, piracy is a dominant problem, and it is very difficult to avoid unauthorized use of the intellectual properties due to the problem of piracy. सॉफ्टवेयर्स के केस में भी पायरेसी है. So piracy is a threat actually. So to regulate the piracy, we have a set of law. Those a set of law have been framed. These laws are called intellectual property rights. Okay, so the incorporeal properties are also sometimes referred as intellectual property, because these properties requires intellectual thinking, or if you should be an intellectual to generate these kind of properties, है ना. So ये human mind की creation है. They require creativity, they require innovativeness, they require critical thinking, है ना, और इंटेलिजेंस. सो वो जो ये जो प्रॉपर्टीज है, सो दीज प्रॉपर्टीज आर, दैट्स वाई इट इज दीज प्रॉपर्टीज आर रेफर्ड एज इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टीज ऑल्सो. And in order to protect these properties, some set of laws has been created at the national level and also at the international level as well. And these laws are called intellectual property rights. Okay, so the law hai, they gives the rights actually to the creator of those property. They actually offer certain rights to the creator of the property, and those laws are called intellectual property rights. Okay, now IPR is treated as intangible assets. We have already discussed this issue, because you cannot touch and see them. So these are treated as intangible assets. Like what some of the examples you might be knowing many of them. Music, it comes in under intellectual property. Literature work, that means if any kind of artistic works like drama, theater, stories telling, all these are called, whatever artistic work actually, they comes into the category of intellectual property. Then if you thus in scientific world, discoveries, inventions, sometimes words that you might have created, special words you might have created, or phrases you might have created, or the symbols, designs. So phrases means sometimes you might have heard sometimes some companies comes up with a small sentence in order to promote their products. वो सिंगल लाइन के साथ आती हैं, और वो उसको अपने प्रोडक्ट के प्रमोशन में इस्तेमाल करते हैं. लाइक थम्स अप का ऐड आता है, जो तू थंडर करके कुछ वो एक बोलते हैं ना, वर्ड बोलते हैं.
Yes, sir.
है ना. So sometimes people come up with a small set of phrases or a small single sentence. They can also be copyrighted. They can also come into this category. Not all, but if they have some creativity, they have some intellectual creation. And many times the designs you create, they comes into the category. So lot of things are there. If you create a map also comes under this category. Okay. If you write a research paper, that is also comes into this category, and you get copyright on that. Okay, if you can create some slides, you create some if whatever you create, actually if you create notes as well, that can also be copyrighted. If you write a poem, it can also be copyrighted. Actually it is a copyrighted thing. Okay, so IPRs, actually that are the set of rules that gives these rules are framed to protect the interest of the creator. Okay, we will also talk about why the interest of the creator need to be protected. What is the motivation behind that? We will talk about that motivation also. So IPR gives the creator an exclusive right. So exclusive right means you have the right to exclude some other people for using your artistic creation. Whatever you have created with your intellectual mind, you can disallow certain set of people to use whatever you have created. Like suppose if you created a diagram, that is some kind of scientific diagram, you can stop other people to use that diagram. Okay, you have complete right on doing that. So, and suppose since you are in the domain of computer science, so programs are also comes under copyright. Okay, so if you write a program, then and it is purely creation of your mind, you have not copied it somewhere. Okay, then you automatically gets the copyright on your program. and nobody can use your program without your permission, because you have been given a copyright on that. But the copyrights are always given for a certain period of time. You should remember this fact also. We will talk about that. There is prescribed duration is there, but copyrights are not given for infinite time. That is also have some interest of the society. That's why it is required, and it is in the interest of the society that copyright should not be given for an infinite amount of time. We will discuss this point a little later. Now IPR have been divided into two broad categories. First is industrial property. Okay, so the intellectual properties, these properties have been divided into two categories. Industrial property. So industrial property consists of rights related to industry, like invention, trademarks, service marks. We will talk about all these things. What are trademarks, service marks, trade dress, trade secret, industrial design. All these are the properties that are called industrial property. So ये intellectual properties हैं and ये industrial property की category में आती हैं. Then there is another kind of class of properties that are referred as in the copyright category. And copyright protect rights related to creation of human mind in the field of literature, music, art, drama, audio visual works, and any other related to literary work, actually, like film, music, dramas, and so on. So actually दो कैटेगरी है, एक इंडस्ट्रियल राइट्स प्रॉपर्टीज़ की कैटेगरी है और अकॉर्डिंगली इंडस्ट्रियल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स हैं उनके लिए. देन दूसरी प्रॉपर्टी है कॉपीराइट, जिसमें लिटरेरी वर्क जो जितना भी आपका वो इसमें इस कैटेगरी में आता है और इनसे रिलेटेड भी सेट ऑफ रूल्स हैं. Now let's talk about first the copyrights and related rights. So it is actually a intellectual property, that is copyright and related right. Copyright and related right. So actually there are two rights actually here, copyright plus related rights. दो राइट्स हैं इसमें, ध्यान रखना है, रिलेटेड राइट्स. एक तो है कॉपीराइट एंड दूसरा है रिलेटेड राइट्स. वी विल टॉक अबाउट बोथ ऑफ देम. नाउ लेट्स फर्स्ट टॉक अबाउट व्हाट इज कॉपीराइट. सो कॉपीराइट, जैसे कि मैंने कहा, इट इज ए लीगल टर्म. व्हाट इट डिस्क्राइब? इट एक्चुअली डिस्क्राइब्स अ सेट ऑफ राइट्स दैट आर गिवन to creator for their literary and artistic work. So for example, suppose you are a poet and you write a poem. Okay, so you write a poem, and let's say you write the poem on the rising sun. So someday, suppose you wake up early in the morning and you see rising sun that is becoming very very red and beautiful, and you again your creativity start grooming in your mind, and then you just get motivated and you wrote a poem on the rising sun. Okay, suppose that. So आपने एक poem लिखी, and now this poem, since you have created this poem, you automatically get a right on this poem, that is you automatically get an intellectual property right in the category of copyright actually. So intellectual property right में दो कैटेगरी हैं. We have seen that copyright category और industrial design. So since this is a artistic work, literary work, so it will come into the copyright category. So you automatically get copyright on it. और copyright को claim करने के लिए आपको सिर्फ एक copyright का symbol बनाना है, ये वाला, है ना. और अगर आप नहीं भी बनाते हैं तब भी ये आपका copyright है. बट जनरली आपको इस अपने आप को प्रूव करना पड़ेगा कि you have created it. Okay, so that can be proved easily. So let's say you got copyright on this poem. Now nobody can use this poem or can recite this poem in some public forum, on some public forum without your permission. Okay, now it may be the case that since you have written a very good poem, you published this poem in some newspaper. So ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई भी आपकी कविता को आपके अलावा नहीं सुना सकता है. People can recite your poem, but there should be no financial interest there. That means nobody can tell your poem in a public forum where he or she is getting some money, है ना. अभी आपने एक रिसेंटली एक पोइट के बारे में सुना होगा कि ही वाज रिसाइटिंग पोएम ऑफ सम अदर पोइट, एंड समटाइम्स कई बार आप ऐसा सुनते होंगे और बाद में फिर वो उनके ऊपर क्लेम करते कि नो दिस वाज माय पोएम. आई थिंक मुनव्वर राणा के केस में ऐसा एक किसी ने कहा था समबडी, और या राहत इंदौर के केस में कि ही जस्ट रिसाइटेड पोएम्स ऑफ सम अदर पीपल. इवन मनोज मुंतसिर है, उनके ऊपर भी कुछ लोगों ने आरोप लगाए थे, बट देवर बेसलेस और बेसलेस जो आरोप लगाए थे लोगों ने कि ही हैव कॉपीड some stanza or some part of the poem from someone else, but that was not so. Okay, so the idea is that you get automatically a copyright on this poem, but generally you can give permission to fair use for your poem. So fair use का मतलब है कोई भी इसे फाइनेंशियल यूज के लिए या किसी अपने एक खास तरीके के बेनिफिट्स के लिए somebody cannot use this poem. Like if you have written a poem और दूसरा पोइट आपके लिए किसी फंक्शन में या किसी जहाँ पे उसे इनवाइट करा गया पब्लिक गैदरिंग में, he is just reciting your poem but without giving a due credit to you. Okay, that means fair use policy is there. Obviously आपको कोट करके he can recite his or her poem and जहाँ पे उसे पैसा मिल रहा है, that is not an issue, but he is not telling that this is poem of your written by you. He is not quoting the real author of that. Then he is doing copyright violation और आप उसे इसके बदले में कोर्ट में ले जा सकते हैं. There are laws and copyright law के अंडर में you can ask the court to take action against him. ठीक है, और आप अपना compensation के तौर पे उससे कुछ you can claim the compensation from that person. Similar thing is that also comes into the copyright also applicable for research paper. Suppose you write a research paper. So once you write a research paper, it becomes your copyright. You automatically gets a copyright on it. Once it is published, तो जनरली आपने किसी जर्नल में पब्लिश किया हो तो वो कॉपीराइट ट्रांसफ़र करते हैं, वो आपसे परमिशन लेते हैं जर्नल वाले, एंड आप उनको भी परमिशन देते हैं. तो जॉइंटली वो कॉपीराइट जर्नल का और आपका होता है. ओके, but mainly you have the copyright on that paper. So if you write a research paper, you get automatically a copyright. Now again, copyright के समय में if you are creating any content, then you have to be careful if you are quoting somebody else. So suppose आपने अपने रिसर्च पेपर में किसी दूसरे पेपर से एक सेंटेंस लिया, उसको ऐसे ही आपने लिख दिया, you cannot do that. However, you can quote one other's result. आपने किसी पेपर में कुछ रिजल्ट पढ़ा and you feel that this result आपको अपने पेपर में भी मेंशन करना चाहिए and it is related to your work or it is important to mention that result here. So you can mention the outcome or result of the paper or some paragraph or some set of lines from other papers, but you have to provide all those things in double quote. You might have heard that. आपने research writing में ये सब पढ़ा होगा, paper writing में. So obviously you can cite some other work. आप किसी के जगह किसी के पेपर से पैराग्राफ या कुछ सेट ऑफ सेंटेंस और मल्टीपल सेंटेंस आप ले सकते हैं, बट आपको उनको डबल कोट में लिखना होगा एंड यू ऑल्सो नीड टू मेंशन द ऑथर ऑफ दैट सेंटेंस. आपको उस ऑथर को क्रेडिट देना होगा. दैट मीन्स यू कैन यूज अदर वर्क्स इन योर पेपर बट गिविंग प्रॉपर ड्यू क्रेडिट टू दैट ऑथर. सो जनरली आप वो रेफरेंस करके पेपर्स के रेफरेंस लगा करके, अगर आप इवन आप स्लाइड्स क्रिएट कर रहे हैं तो वहाँ भी आप जो है ना एक्चुअली उनके रेफरेंस, यू नीड टू प्रोवाइड द रेफरेंसेस टू द रियल ऑथर ऑफ दैट source of the actually the sentence or whatever idea you have taken or the result you have taken. Okay, so the copyright is automatically given to the creator. However, the copyright also gives the right to creator to exclude some other people to using it. For example, in case of poem, आपने जो poem लिखी है, no other poet can recite that poem. However, you as a normal person, you and me or even other person or poet can also recite your poem. गुनगुना सकते हो आप उसकी कविता को, है ना, but you cannot use it for your financial benefit or any kind of benefit. ठीक है. सो कमर्शियल यूज खास करके आप बिल्कुल नहीं कर सकते. So now I think you might have understood the main objective of copyright is to protect the original literary and artistic creation of all types of authors. So suppose you wrote a drama, तो वो ड्रामा पर आपको you will be given the copyright. If you write a novel, if you write a story, you get the copyright. Now you can publish that novel, okay, with the help of some publisher. So you will be giving copyright to the publisher. In order to publish your book will take permission from you. That means you are actually doing a kind of copyright transfer. Okay, now the copyright is not given for infinite time, that I told you. Copyrights, whatever copyrights you are given or copyrights given to author doesn't last for infinite amount of time. Okay, they are given for limited period. So usually that limited period in many of the country, or as per the convention of Bern conference हुई थी, उसके convention के according the copyright is given to a author up to his life and at least 50 years or after death. Okay, so for example, suppose you have written a poem, so automatically for your lifetime this poem will be copyrighted to you. आपका copyright रहेगा उस पर, and after 50 years तक भी, आपके death के 50 years के बाद भी आपको ही copyright रहेगा उसका. Or you can transfer the copyright to your children also. Similarly, it is a kind of property, so copyright आप अपने जो भी उत्तराधिकारी हैं, you can give the copyright to them. However, that copyright will not go long now. Author की death होने के बाद minimum 50 years तक ही रहेगा. It depends on other countries also. कोई जो ना इसको ज़्यादा बढ़ाकर कर सकता है, but international जो treaties और conventions हैं उसके according minimum 50 years is the duration after death of the original author. So तब तक आप उस पर copyright लिख सकते हैं. So for example, suppose you wrote a book, yeah, I wrote a book, and that book is very popular, and I get a publisher that publishes my book. So however, on that book I have copyright, लेकिन बिना मेरी permission के, since publisher cannot publish, and also why publisher will publish my book, I need to give him some incentive. So generally I give license to publisher for publishing my book, and उस केस में I will get the royalty, and since publisher also have done some investment, so he will get also something from there. So ऐसा नहीं है कि अब उसमें मैं publisher को कोई financial benefit होने से रोक सकता हूँ, लेने से रोक सकता हूँ. So here comes the term related right actually. So I have the copyright on my book, but publisher will get related right on the book, the copy he has created. ओके, सो ध्यान रखना है, जो कॉपीराइट जब मिलता है तो ओरिजिनल कंटेंट्स पर ऑथर का कॉपीराइट होता है, बट मेनी टाइम्स देर आर सम अदर पार्टीज आर ऑल्सो इन्वॉल्व्ड विद द publication or presentation of the contents that I have created. So for example, suppose I am a musician, I compose a music, लेकिन अब वो म्यूजिक को एक कंप्लीट फॉर्म में सेल करके एक म्यूजिक फॉर्म में, सॉन्ग के फॉर्म में लाना, उसका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करना, ऑल दैट. सो उसके लिए आई विल नीड ए म्यूजिक कंपनी लाइक टी सीरीज और एनी काइंड ऑफ अदर कंपनीज. सो मैं टी सीरीज के साथ अपने म्यूजिक को एक सॉन्ग के फॉर्म में लेकर के आऊँगा. सो आई विल हैव कॉपीराइट ऑन दैट, and the music company will have related right on that. Okay, or suppose that somebody writes a choreography, somebody does a choreography, and the dancers or actors just perform according to that choreography. So जो presentation का जो है, presentation में भी क्या होता है, जो artists हैं they have also given their input. So it is always important that they should also be given due credit. So for example, आपने एक script लिखी किसी मूवी की, so that script is copyrighted to you, आपको copyright मिल गया उस स्क्रिप्ट पर, बट उस स्क्रिप्ट में जो अभिनय करने वाले लोग हैं या उस स्क्रिप्ट को एक प्रेजेंटेशन आर्टिशियल फॉर्म, एक प्रेजेंटेबल फॉर्म में लेकर के आने वाले, एक लिटरेरी फॉर्म में लेकर के जो आने वाले लोग हैं प्रेजेंट करने के लिए, लिटरेरी वर्क है ना, तो somebody will present that, they will express that literature or sorry that script in form of a movie or let's say in form of a episode. So they will also have given that input, you can say that their capability or the talent they have invested there, so they will also get some right, huh? So or you may say that, for example, you wrote a poem, very good poem you have written, then somebody wanted that this poem need to be composed in form of a, let's say, song, very good song, और इसे परफॉर्म किया जाए. सो एक पर्सन आता है, ही जस्ट हायर ए कंपोजर, वो उस पर धुन तैयार करता है. देयर इज अ सिंगर दैट सिंग्स दैट पोएम, एंड देन देर आर सम सेट ऑफ अदर पीपल दैट आर परफॉर्मिंग ऑन दैट पोएम, म्यूजिकल फॉर्म में उसे लाइव प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं. So whoever facilitating the live telecast of that poem will also get some right, क्योंकि he has also given its input, उसमें उसने अपने resources को खपाया है. He have also put certain ideas of themselves to आपके जो performance poem का जो presentation है, that should become very good kind of artistic work. सो ऐसा मतलब नहीं है कि आपकी पोइम में पूरा राइट आपके पास हो गया, और जो उसके जो आउटकम, जो कंटेंट क्रिएट हुआ, दैट विल गेट द पीपल दैट आर इन्वॉल्व देयर विल गेट रिलेटेड राइट ऑन दैट. ओके, सो कॉपीराइट एंड रिलेटेड राइट दोनों रिलेटेड टर्म हैं, लेकिन रिलेटेड राइट कम मिलते हैं जब आप उसको किसी एक कंपोज करके किसी फॉर्म में लेकर के आते हैं, कहीं पे प्रेजेंट करते हैं, लाइक ब्रॉडकास्ट कर रहे हैं या एक लाइव परफॉर्मेंस आप कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें जो आर्टिस्ट इन्वॉल्व है, दे विल ऑल्सो गेट द रिलेटेड राइट. इफ़ यू आर पब्लिशिंग योर बुक, सो पब्लिशर शुड गेट सम रिलेटेड राइट्स ऑन दैट, है ना. सो दिस इज द स्टोरी ऑफ कॉपीराइट. नाउ वन मोर थिंग यू शुड रिमेंबर, व्हेन you get a copyright on something, then you get the copyright on the things what you have expressed. So for example, suppose जैसे मैंने कहा कि कविता आपने, you have written a poem while taking the idea of rising sun. So it is now not the case that you get the copyright on the idea of rising sun also, since you have written a poem on the rising sun. So it is not the case that you have also, you cannot claim that nobody will write the poem on rising sun because I have copyright on it. No, you have copyright on the वे ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन. आपने अपने जो राइजिंग सन को देख करके कुछ आपके दिमाग में आया, एंड यू हैव एक्सप्रेस्ड योर फीलिंग्स इन सेट ऑफ वर्ड्स. सो जो आर्टिस्टिक वर्क है आपका, दैट क्रिएशन ऑफ द माइंड्स और वे ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ योर फीलिंग्स, वट एवर यू फील्ड एट दैट टाइम, you express that in set of words, and that comes in form of a poem. So whatever idea is there, उसको आपने कैसे प्रेजेंट किया, तो the way of expression is copyrighted actually. जो वर्ड्स के फॉर्म में आपने एक्सप्रेस किया है उसको, that is copyrighted, but not the idea behind that. So it is always the case. या जैसे आपने, you are a painter, you see a rising sun, आप उससे इंस्पायर्ड हुए एंड आपने एक राइजिंग सन की एक बढ़िया सी ड्राइंग बनाई, तो वो ड्राइंग पर आपका कॉपीराइट है, राइजिंग सन पर कॉपीराइट नहीं होगा, ध्यान रखना. सो वेन एवर यू टॉक अबाउट कॉपीराइट, इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट कॉपीराइट इज गिवन ऑन द वे you have expressed the things, not on the idea itself. Okay, so idea cannot be copyrighted. Idea cannot be copyrighted. आपने कई बार नेताओं को कहते सुना होगा. Don't take it otherwise. Politically, I do not want to talk about politically. Sometimes somebody does some work. अरे ये तो हमने शुरू किया था, ये हमारा आइडिया था. Sometimes people say that. So वो आइडिया तो कोई भी के दिमाग में आ सकता है. द इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग इज हाउ यू एक्सप्रेस योर आइडिया. सो राइजिंग सन पर कई तरीके से कविता लिखी जा सकती है. मैनी पीपल हैव रिटन द पोएम ऑन राइजिंग सन, और मैनी पीपल हैव क्रिएटेड ड्राइंग और पेंटिंग ऑन द राइजिंग सन. ओके, बट अगर आपने राइजिंग सन पर कविता लिखी है या राइजिंग सन पर पेंटिंग बनाई है, तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि यू हैव कॉपीराइटेड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ राइजिंग सन. नो, राइजिंग सन के बाद आपने जो वे ऑफ, जिस तरीके से उसको प्रेजेंट किया पूरे सिनारियो को, द वे ऑफ प्रेजेंटेशन इज कॉपीराइटेड. जिस तरीके से खास तरीके से प्रेजेंट किया है आपने, बट राइजिंग सन का आइडिया नहीं है. कोई दूसरा पेंटर भी राइजिंग सन पर बना सकता है ना. सो कॉपीराइट is not given on the idea behind whatever you have created. It is given on the way of expression you have made. उस आइडिया को आपने कैसे एक्सप्रेस किया है, उस पर आपको कॉपीराइट मिलता है, नॉट ऑन द आइडिया. So this is very important to understand regarding copyright. Okay, so आप suppose you are writing a research paper on particular topic, so you have now, आपने अगर उस टॉपिक पर लिखा है तो ऐसा नहीं कि आपका उस टॉपिक पर कॉपीराइट हो गया. एनीबडी एंड कैन ऑल्सो वर्क ऑन दैट टॉपिक. हाँ, लेकिन वट एवर वे में आपने उस टॉपिक पर वर्क करके जो प्रेजेंट किया है, दैट वे इज यूनिक टू यू एंड दैट विल बी कॉपीराइटेड. ओके
ओके सर.
हाँ, एनी क्वेश्चन?
नो सर.
बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन हो सकते हैं, फिर भी पूछे. That is actually very broad topic. It is a very broad topic. A lot of time can be devoted on discussing the copyrights and related rights.
Yes sir, yes sir.
Yes,
Okay.
yes sir.
Okay, so that, as I've told you, the idea in the work do not need to be original. ध्यान रखना है, जो idea है आपका वो original. It is not required that it should be original. But the form of expression जो आपने जैसे express किया है, so for example rising sun, ऐसा नहीं है कि राइजिंग सन मैंने ही पहले देखा है या आप ही ने पहले देखा है और आप ही ने पोएम लिख दी और किसी ने लिखा. मैनी पीपल हैव माइट हैव रिटन पोएम ऑन राइजेशन और मैनी पीपल हैव क्रिएटेड द पेंटिंग ऑफ राइजिंग सन. या फिर कई लोगों ने एक ही टाइप की मिलती जुलती चीज़ों पर स्टोरी लिखी होगी. मैनी पीपल, गरीबी पर कई लोगों ने कविताएं लिखी हैं, कहानियाँ लिखी हैं, बट ऐसा नहीं है कि गरीबी पर उसका कॉपीराइट हो गया. ओके, सो जो अंडरलाइंग कॉन्सेप्ट है या आइडिया है उस पर किसी का कॉपीराइट नहीं होता है, but the form of expression is given the copyright. That is very important, or that is the this is the soul of the copyright law. ये चीज़ आपको समझना है और इसी के बेस पर कॉपीराइट अवार्ड होते हैं. चलिए आज यहीं क्लोज करते हैं. सो इन नेक्स्ट क्लास वी विल टॉक अबाउट, सो ये तो हो गए कॉपीराइट्स लॉ. और कॉपीराइट्स लॉ डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज में है. यू कैन सी रीड आउट किन किन एरियाज में मिलते हैं. लिटरेरी वर्क लाइक नोवेल, पोएम, प्लेज, रेफरेंस वर्क्स, न्यूज़पेपर्स, कंप्यूटर प्रोग्राम, डेटाबेसेस, फिल्म्स, बहुत सारी कैटेगरी में आपको कॉपीराइट्स के थ्रू हम कवर करते हैं. एंड एवरी ए कंट्री हैव कॉपीराइट्स लॉ. इंटरनेशनल लॉज भी हैं एंड नेशनल लॉज आर देयर. सो छोटी सी भी छोटी चीज़ें नाउ डेज कॉपीराइटेड हैं.
यस सर.
चलिए, सो आज यहीं क्लोज करते हैं. आई विल शेयर दो स्लाइड्स विद यू सो यू कैन गो थ्रू दैट. और बाकी WIPO इज ए ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एक्चुअली वर्ल्ड इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कुछ करके है. सो बीपो एक इंटरनेशनल एजेंसी एक्चुअली यूनाइटेड नेशंस की. सो दैट हैव क्रिएटेड लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट्स रिलेटेड टू कॉपीराइट. तो बहुत सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं. हालांकि इस स्लाइड्स को आप कहीं पे पब्लिक डोमेन में शेयर नहीं करेंगे बिकॉज आई हैव नॉट यूज साइटेशंस फॉर देयर. मैंने कई जगह से वर्क लिया है. सो मैंने बहुत पहले स्लाइड्स बनाई थी, तब मैं भी कुछ इन रूल से फेमिलियर नहीं था या मैंने इग्नोर कर दिया था. एक्चुअली आई वॉज नॉट टू मच सीरियस अबाउट दिस थिंग. सो ये कॉपीराइटेड हैं, तो अब चूँकि मैंने बनाया है, कई चीज़ें कहीं से ली हैं मैंने, उनका सोर्स अब मुझे याद नहीं है. सो आई हैव नॉट पुट सोर्स देयर. So I cannot make it public, क्योंकि पब्लिक डोमेन में डालेंगे then somebody may claim that you have used or you have copied these set of sentences from my work and you have not cited them. मैंने साइट नहीं किया ना इसलिए. so that is a copyright violation. हाँ, मैं व्हाट्सअप कर दूंगा बट डोंट पुट दीज इन पब्लिक डोमेन.
ओके सर.
कहीं पे पोस्ट नहीं करना है.
ओके सर, आई विल कीप दिस कॉन्फिडेंशियल.
नहीं, वैसे कोई इशू नहीं आएगा बट स्टिल क्योंकि चूँकि एज ए क्या कहते हैं रिस्पॉन्सिबल पर्सन, अब हमने नहीं किया है, जानबूझ के तो नहीं किया था, बट उस समय छोड़ दिया तो छोड़ दिया. और उस समय एक्चुअली क्या था, लेटेक्स में स्लाइड बनाई थी तो वहाँ रेफरेंसेस का जो वो था ना, रेफरेंसेस आ नहीं रहे थे, तो फिर मैंने सब हटा दिए थे. और अब रेफरेंसेस को कुछ टेक्निकल इशू आ रहा था, लेकिन अब कोई ऐसा नहीं है.
और सर